All right, welcome back. You're still watching tonight, and this is a special edition of the by-elections 2025. We're already starting to receive some of the outcomes from the various by-elections, and as we speak, the latest from Malava constituency, we are seeing from the tallying center in that constituency at Malava Boys that the candidate for UDA is leading with 2,777 votes, and the candidate for DCP, this is Seth Panyako, rather DAPK, is following with 2,321, but still early. So many polling stations yet to be tabulated to add to the total votes that are being declared there. But also we are monitoring the other by-elections all the way from Beren, North, Magarini, Ugunja, Kasipul, Baringo, the senatorial election, and of course the various ward elections, including Porco Ward, that has been taken by UDA party, with the candidate scoring 53.4% of the vote cast. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's been quite a long evening, a long day that we've witnessed. Sheila, what do you make of the proceedings of the day, and obviously the outcomes that are starting to stream in?
I think first I would like to say that if today was an indicator of anything that 2027 is going to be, then I think voters will get there very tired. There's a lot that was at stake. It was very clear that this election was not just about filling the various seats that were vacant, but it was more about everybody really trying to find their place and showing who's powerful or who is going to lead. It was more like a dress rehearsal for 2027. My biggest concern is voter apathy and voter fatigue. In many places, we saw that both sides of whether it was opposition or the government side, that they were really throwing a lot of accusation and blame games here and there in anticipating that things would go wrong. There were some little pockets of violence here and there. But overall, I think I would start on a very positive note by saying that we're very lucky as a country that we get to exercise our democratic right by being able to go to the polls, and we should not take that for granted. We should guard it with everything that we have. And that being said, there's some key takeaways that we have learned today that I think we should use to prepare for 2027. One, the over-involvement of senior politicians and government officials. That is a major concern. Two, this concept of voter apathy, that we are pushing so much that voters will not want to participate in elections. And once they don't do that, then you're not going to legitimize whoever gets elected at the end of the day. And three, this was really, I mean, we have a new IEBC that is working. This is the first time they're going on the run. I hope they're taking lessons of what has worked really well and what could be improved on a little bit. Central to that being clear roles and responsibilities. Who is in charge of security, who is in charge of, and all those things, so that we feel that this public trust deficit that is currently going on in the country is reduced a little bit. And for those who went and voted very well, and we are seeing that the results are coming in and they're already winning, it's a big congratulations to them as well, because they've worked. This was a tough one. I think this was very tough. For anybody who's already winning now, it's a big congratulations to them.
Right. Yet, Dr. Chesa, we have also seen a day of chaos, cars burnt, especially in Malava constituency, people injured, and in several polling stations, politicians chasing others being chased. Your comment?
Chances are that the people who will win today are not largely winning by themselves. It's a reflection of so many combined forces and efforts. People risk having leaders that they may not have intended to elect at all because of the over-involvement of other players. This election today is, in my opinion, a pace setter for 2027. The security apparatus failed terribly today, and the indicators are, if we have witnessed 2 vehicles being burnt in Malava, which is just one of the 290 constituencies, it means that when we are having a general election, if the police behave in the manner they behave today, when distress calls are made from particular quarters, there is either response or no response based on the affiliation, then this country is going to be in trouble at that particular time. IEBC also has been put into question the issues of the credibility of the process. Remember that the Maraga decision in 2017 that nullified Kenyatta's election stated that election is not an event. Election is a process. So what we've witnessed today ought to be evaluated in terms of the entire process, right from the time the campaigns started. The allegations of bribery, the allegations of involvement of persons entrusted in public office and the use of public resources one way or the other. And lastly, it has been an investment from all players, be it the opposition or the government. So as the results will be coming in, and after the official announcement, we will have to ask and assess whether the return on investment is worth it. We look at what was invested in Kasipul by both parties, in Malava, in Mbeere, and say, if the other party that lost had invested the similar resources and similar amounts of money, involvement of the personnel, will the outcome have been different?
Interesting perspective as you talk about return on investment. We'll talk about that because money plays quite a critical role in our elections. I just want to bring you the latest in terms of the constituency of Malava. The outcome so far out of 40 polling stations reporting, you have the candidate of UDA, David Ndakwa, leading with 54.6%. That is the vote of 3,782 votes. And then the candidate for DAP, that is Seth Panyako, is following with 2,915 votes, which translates to 42%. Again, UDA candidate Ndakwa David with 54.6%, Seth Panyako of DAP with 42%. And so far, it is 41 polling stations reporting out of 158. So still quite a long way to go, about 117 polling stations yet to report. Professor Kagwanja, talk to us about the lessons, especially when you look at the conduct of the by-election today, the events that we've witnessed, and as they say, involvement of senior politicians, because even some of them have been at the polling stations.
You know, this election, Gituko, reminds me as a historian of 1966, the Litro election. It is a by-election to fill positions that have been left vacant for a variety of reasons.
Right.
And because of the absence of the IEBC for a long duration, which would have meant that these elections would have been staggered. But it has now collectively turned up into a Litro election.
Right.
And Litro election because behind it, if you remember, the 1966 was when Jaramogi Oginga was removed from power as vice president at that time. The shadow behind this election is the unfinished battle, or if you wish, the unfinished impeachment of Gachagua. I say unfinished because it is still continuing, and that acrimony is still there. So you see it rippling in a number of areas. The other thing is, of course, the united opposition versus the government, or William Ruto's formation. Now, which means that this election is larger than what we're seeing. It has been lit so large that it is now Mbeere North is one of the smallest constituencies in Mount Kenya by any measure.
Right.
It's the smallest, even in Embu County. It is the smallest. Yet now it looks like it is the mega constituency because of the weight of the political import that's going to come from this. Definitely, if William Ruto pulls through in Mbeere, first and foremost, my friend, Professor Kidiki, will come out with a heavier voice than possibly people have estimated before. Now, my friend Rocco will basically emerge as the giant of Mbeere politics. But if they lose, the consequences for 2022 is also going to be extremely heavy. Never mind that Mbeere politics is determined not by national politics, by the internal clan politics. And the one who plays the clan politics better always emerges as the best winner. So I'm kind of saying that this election itself is writ large within the larger context of the 2027 electoral politics. And as a result, and as Dr. here has mentioned, there was an unproportional dispensation of resources.
Right.
To the point where we still can say this was a free and fair election in terms of the resources that have, for example, have gone to Bere North, the resources that have gone to Marava. And of course, the violence and all this. It shows that everything is at stake, particularly for the government. Because the government is the only institution with the monopoly of instruments of violence and coercion. And therefore, when they are dispensed, then they cannot escape blame for that matter. And if it is dispensed by a private citizen, it cannot escape blame for not arresting that private citizen. So in all measures, violence is squarely put in the hands of whoever is in power at whatever time in our history. So it's a very tantalizing moment for the Republic.
Yes.
When our democracy is praying the way it is, in a very palpable way, very public way, but at the same time, a moment of reflection as to where we are going the right direction, or we are simply beginning to become what they call electoral autocracy. And
Electoral autocracy. Okay, we'll talk about that. Now, the latest from Bere North constituency, we understand that it's a very tight race. We're waiting to hear from our representative there, that is Emmanuel To, with the latest results that have been verified. But just to tell you, it's a very close race between the candidate of DP, that is Newton Karish, and the candidate for UDA, Leo Wamudende. As soon as we have the figures, I'll be sure to read them to you. But Mheshimiwa Karoli Omondi, your thoughts about what you've seen today, if you've been able to follow the proceedings and what you're making of them.
Yeah, first, let me begin by condemning the violence in whatever form and the loss of life in some instances. I think this the by-elections that I think are most tainted with illegalities and election offenses that I've witnessed in my life. And any win will not be a win that you can clearly claim met the threshold as laid out in our constitution for elections. So I expect also legal challenges going forward with respect to these elections. It was very sad to see Honorable Kaluma attacked very viciously. There were also MPs who were chased away. There were, in fact, several MPs, we estimate about 6, were attacked at different polling stations. And that's a very bad precedent. But also, people's property were destroyed. And I think the institutions that are concerned with maintaining law and order, and even IEBC and other institutions, they must come out and take action. Because if we let this fester, then we will end up with a situation like we have in Haiti, when politics generate gangs that then become institutionalized and overpower the police because of the sheer number of the civilians and basically take the country hostage. I think this is not something we should take lightly. We need to deal with this violence. Having said that, let me say my view of these elections is that each election has to be looked at individually, because each election presents different implications. I'll give you a few examples. Overall, if you look at all the by-elections, or in terms of the united opposition and the government, or the broad-based government, there's a contest there, and I think the united opposition is demonstrating they can stand up to the pressure of the government in all these elections, by-elections, which is quite significant. And I think it is given the current situation in the country. Yeah. But that aside, if you look at the by-elections that were, let's say, the ward by-elections in Kisii, they will give you a direction as to what the Kisii nation is thinking and which direction they are likely to go. The same to the ones in Western Kenya. And for the government, even if they win, and they win narrowly, the resources deployed have been massive, what Dr. Echesa called return on investment. And I think it will be a good indicator, because in 2027, there'll be 1,450 something ward elections,
Right.
and 290 constituency and 47, counties and the rest. So it will not be what we are seeing today. And if you look at each by-election individually and how they'll affect either a political party or a formation, then we will understand the significance of these by-elections. Not so much as to who has won, yes, but as to the direction they are taking you. What is beginning to emerge is that there's very strong opposition to the government in Western Kenya. You can clearly see that from the ward by-elections as well as the constituency of Malava.
Right.
It's a close race, so you can see that. It also shows you that in Mount Kenya, the government is still present, if you take Mbere, but it is under serious onslaught. Yes. And what I've learned with these by-elections, it's not that if you win it, a by-election, a few years to the general election, you'll win again. Or if you lose, you will lose again. I remember when we first put Honorable Hassan Joho in a by-election, he lost. 2 years later, he won. In Kasipul Kabondo, when we lost the late Engineer Widi, the gentleman who won would lose in the subsequent general election. Yes, so there are so many things that have come with these by-elections that to clearly understand where they are going is to deal with each individually, because they have different implications for different political parties and different formations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Just an update here that based on the tallies at the tallying center in Mbere North, so far reporting about 4,428 votes that have been counted. This is out of 20 polling stations out of 134. You're showing Newton Karish in the lead with 51.4%, then Leo Wamuthende with 42.9%. The specific terms is that Leo Wamuthende has 1,900 and the gentleman Newton Karish has 2,278. But of course, these are as posted in the tallying center in Mbere North. It doesn't mean that that's how it will stay. As more results are verified, then that number will change. But so far, that's what we have from Mbere North. And I just told you about Malava constituency that shows one David Ndakwa with 54.6% and Seth Panyako with 42%. I just want us to quickly, before we take a break, to look at some of the issues that we'll be looking at in the conversation when, of course, moving into the future. The elections of 2022 and now, what is likely to change? Let's begin by looking at Baringo County, which has the senatorial by-election. In 2022, you had that seat going to the UDA candidate, William Cheptumo. Of course, he died early in the year. Now the question is, does it go to another UDA candidate or does it go to another candidate who is an independent? Let's take a look at the next race that we are also watching. That is a constituency by-election, and this is Ugunja. In 2022, the election went to Opiyo Wandayi of ODM. What happens in 2025 at a time that you have other candidates, including MDG and others in that race? Let's take a look at the next constituency as we look at whether there will be shifts when it comes to the political parties. Magarini constituency in 2022 voted for Harrison Kombe. Of course, that outcome was challenged. The difference was just about 20 votes or so, and that is why that election is being repeated. Will Harrison Kombe win this election, or will it go to a different candidate? Of course, when you looked at the results earlier, it was a race between the DCP candidate and the ODM candidate, in this case, ODM being Harrison Kombe. The next race in a constituency is Mbere North. At that time, it was Geoffrey Ruku who won the race on a DP ticket. Remember, DP was within the Kenya Kwanza coalition. The party leader of DP was and still is the former Attorney General and former Speaker Justin Muturi. In this race, then, now you have Newton Karish of the DP party, but not within the Kenya Kwanza coalition. Instead, you have a UDA candidate by the name Leo Wamuthende, facing off with several other candidates, but it's looking like it's between Karish and Wamuthende. Where will it go? The other election we are watching is still at the constituency level. Malava, that time it was Malulu Ijendi of ANC party. ANC was part of the Kenya Kwanza coalition. This time round, it's proven to be a race between UDA candidate David Ndakwa and Seth Panyako of DAPK. At the time, Seth Panyako was in the UDA party. He has since shifted, and a new candidate of UDA is David Ndakwa, who so far is leading that race. Which other one are we looking at in terms of the constituencies? This is Kasipul. The member of parliament elected that time in 2022 was Charles Ongondo Were. He was murdered early in the year. And now there's a race between a candidate of ODM, the son of Charles Ongondo, that is Boyd Were. The other candidates, including Philip Aroko and others in that area, will be watching that. Let's take a short break. When we return, we'll continue to, of course, that's another race of Banisa constituency. Kulo Maalim died in 2023. That constituency has not had an MP since that time.